Just a few days ago, we saw just a tiny bit of what the Curse of Osiris has to offer. We saw a little bit of what the story will be, we were given a sneak peek into the new patrol area, and we were even teased with the mention of weapon forging and a tiny teaser as to what raid content means when it comes to the Curse of Osiris. But at the end of the day, barring a massive overhaul that Bungie is keeping from us, Destiny 2 still needs some work. Destiny 2 lacks Endgame. I'm not quite sure who said it. I'm not sure if it was a Reddit post or a tweet or a video I came across, but I hear this statement in some way echoed throughout the community almost constantly. Bungie spent so much time adding new things to the game, they forgot to give us a reason to do them. And honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. Destiny 2 has a bunch of new things: mods, the token system, adventures, lost sectors, heroic events, treasure maps, meditations, to name a few, all of which were great additions. But there's currently not a single reason to complete any of them once you reach power level 305. Destiny 2 can be broken down into 5 basic categories when it comes to PvE: adventures, lost sectors, strikes, raids, and patrols. Now you may have noticed I didn't mention Crucible, and that's because I won't be discussing Crucible in this video for 2 reasons. One, because the Crucible guys in the community have been incredibly vocal on their own accord, but also due to my lack of experience and playtime in the Crucible itself. Suggestions I may make in the Crucible might end up doing more harm than good due to that inexperience. So I'll just be leaving it out of this video, but a lot of the things that I say in this video can apply to the Crucible. I want to begin by discussing each of these categories and the issues I personally have with them, and then providing suggestions on how I personally would fix them. Ultimately, the general consensus is a lack of endgame and incentive, but I want to dive deeper than simply stating there is no reason to do them, or stating that they aren't worth the time. Let's start with adventures. These in their own right were a creative way to add more to the story that weren't just simply side quests. Adventures themselves were a welcomed addition to the game, but like every activity, they lack a reason to complete them. Only a select number of adventures provide weapons that are the rare equivalent to legendary weapons, and on occasion reward you with exotic engrams. But other activities provide exotics more frequently, removing the exotic incentive from adventures, which in their current state would be their only saving grace. Bungie developers stated they would be repeatable prior to launch, leading us to believe that they would be worth repeating, but in hindsight, this isn't the case. In the current system, once every adventure is completed on a planet, they become daily and only provide an additional activity to your routine. This could be improved by instead making them function similar to public events, appearing randomly for a set period of time. Completing these new time-gated adventures would give you a chance at activity-exclusive gear and weapons, or an adventure-specific emblem. Now moving away from adventures, the next activity to discuss would be lost sectors. In a basic sense, lost sectors are handcrafted areas with no incentive to explore or complete. You discover them for the first time, kill a few enemies, kill a boss, and collect, for lack of a better description, lackluster loot. Each of the 4 currently accessible planets, and presumably a 5th with the reveal of Mercury coming with the Curse of Osiris DLC, have a small batch of these ranging from 3 to 5 lost sectors per planet. This of course is excluding the European Dead Zone, which has 16. In total, that's 27 handcrafted areas that have no incentive to complete them other than the first completion. That gives you an extra token, 1 extra piece of rare gear, and some extra glimmer. On paper, these are portrayed as open world mini strikes, but in practice they are just another activity you might do because the challenge tells you to. This needs to change. Each planet needs to have 1 lost sector that is locked and inaccessible unless you have a key. In order to obtain these keys, you'd have to complete the other lost sectors for tokens, and these tokens should be somewhat rare. They then could be taken to any planetary vendor in exchange for a heroic lost sector key. Using this key would grant you access to one of the locked lost sectors. These heroic lost sectors would be on-level content similar to that of the Nightfall strikes at around power level 270. Completing these heroic versions would reward you with lost sector specific loot or a lost sector specific emblem that will tie into an idea that I'll be discussing later in the video. Altogether, I feel this would greatly improve lost sectors. Moving forward, strikes in Destiny 1 were the go-to activity to pass time and farm for some endgame loot. While the strikes in Destiny 1 were to some bad in design, the reward for completion made them worth your time. In Destiny 2, they've made strikes mechanically fun, and for the first couple completions, in my opinion, were more enjoyable due to their expanded design. But after you play them more than a few times, you begin to realize the lack of endgame rewards. Sure, early on in progression, the blue gear and the Vanguard tokens were helpful, but when compared to Destiny 1, where even to the last day in its life cycle, people were still farming for a perfect Amaga loop, in Destiny 2 in its current state, this isn't happening. Strikes in Destiny 2 are the epitome of one step forward, two steps back. But Nightfalls are a different case. Nightfalls fixed a lot of issues seen in Destiny 1. I know there's a lot of division in the community about whether the addition of a timer was the right move, but for me, Nightfalls are now more enjoyable, but still have room for improvement when it comes to rewarding your playtime. A very simple fix would be adding the same strike-specific loot system we had in Destiny 1, and while this addition could potentially fix a lot of the issues, I feel adding a bit more wouldn't hurt. The addition of what I'm calling Golden Age relics, which would essentially be an engram only earnable through strikes, would greatly improve strikes. These Golden Age relics would drop super rarely and contain a chance at all other strike-specific loot and an even rarer chance at exotics. To explain the idea of a Golden Age relic even further, these incredibly rare items would only contain strike-specific gear and strike-specific exotics. Think of it as a 1 in 400 chance to get an exotic exclusive to the activity. Now that seems a little harsh, so to make this super rare exotic more obtainable, as not everyone has the time to play the lottery 400 times, when completing a Nightfall each week, you'll be guaranteed to receive a Golden Age relic once per week per character. This will allow players to have about a 1 in 3 chance each week to obtain it, and for those that wish to grind for it, it would give them a higher likelihood of obtaining it sooner. On top of the strike-specific loot and Golden Age relics, adding an activity-exclusive emblem, which again I'll discuss in further detail later. Altogether, I feel once again that just adding these few things to the game would make strikes more enjoyable. One thing that most veteran Guardians can agree on is if you don't play the raids, you haven't experienced what Destiny has to truly offer. In Destiny 1, the raids, barring some hiccups early in its life cycle, were one of the main reasons a lot of us kept coming back week after week. And to be fair, the raid in Destiny 2 is just as good and an equally enjoyable experience. Some may disagree due to its lack of, quote, true boss encounters, but even with its puzzles, mechanically the Leviathan is fun. But once again, we come back to the same issue that every activity in Destiny 2 seems to have: a lack of sense of progression past the core game. The loot in Destiny 2's raid, especially when it comes to armor, does nothing for you. It doesn't make the encounter slightly easier like the raid gear from Destiny 1, and to be completely honest, even when looking at just the stats they provide for your Guardian, there are other armor obtainable elsewhere that is more advantageous to use. The way the raid stands, the only reason to complete it is for a few emblems and some armor that looks different. But once you've obtained the full set, which is fairly easy to obtain due to the token system, there really isn't a reason to go back unless to help carry a friend. You're better off just patrolling one of the planets if progression is your focus. Now there's not much I want to touch on the raid when it comes to improvement other than the things that they don't have from Destiny 1, but touching the raid experience and drastically changing the raid experience is a dangerous thing to toy with. But I have mentioned activity exclusive emblems, which the raid already has, and the completion tracking system already put in place by Bungie for other activities. Using the raid emblems in the same way would only help. Now, when creating the script for this video, I actually struggled with the decision of whether I should separate lost sectors, adventures, and patrols, and more specifically, if I should even include patrols as an activity by itself, but ultimately decided that patrols should be its own topic. Patrols in Destiny 1 were bad. Outside of some creative farming methods for strange coins, Destiny 1 patrols just kind of existed, and oddly enough, in Destiny 2 are, in my opinion, the only activity in a good spot. When you group public events with patrolling, you have a sound endgame experience. The issue lies in the fact that it's the only enjoyable endgame experience, and it's not even advertised as endgame. Right now, you want tokens? Go patrol. You want exotics? Go patrol. Legendaries? Again, go patrol. Right now, for majority of the items in the game, if you want to know the best way to get them, most people are going to tell you just to go patrol. This is the core issue because patrolling, while not an endgame activity, has turned into the endgame in Destiny 2. I think many people fear that patrols, and especially public events, will get some sort of nerf, but I want them to actually stay the way they are in Destiny 2, and could even be improved even if slightly, but that's as long as everything else in the game also gets improved. So now that we've discussed raids, patrols, adventures, lost sectors, and strikes, and I've talked about one idea that ties them all together through activity-specific emblems, let's actually discuss this idea. Bungie has already implemented a system that tracks completions on certain activities. This emblem tracks public events. This one tracks the number of trials wins you have. And to further drive this point, you have this one that tracks prestige nightfall completions. This system is already in place and is a good start, but I think it could be expanded on. As I mentioned, adventures, patrols, raids, strikes, and lost sectors would have uncommon emblems that are activity-specific. I'll be using the emblems already in-game for this example, which are on screen now. After unlocking each emblem, it begins tracking completions. At 50 completions, that emblem would receive this bronze border. At 100 completions, that border would then change to silver. At 250, it would become gold. At 500 completions, it would change to platinum. And once reaching 1,000 completions, that border changes to diamond. And once one of the multiple activities I have listed, which could and should include Crucible activities, reaches 1,000 completions, and you have its diamond border, you unlock the following: a new emblem known as the Completionist Emblem, a reusable Completionist shader, a permanent Completionist aura, a Completionist ship, and a Completionist sparrow. The system would apply to each and every activity once reaching 1,000 completions. This alone, this purely cosmetic idea, gives players something to grind for that doesn't affect gameplay. Even if every other suggestion I've made, the strikes and the Golden Age relics, heroic lost sectors, adventure-specific loot, if none of those were implemented into the game, and this cosmetic grind fest was the only thing added, it alone, at least for me, would give me incentive to play activities I in the past would have ignored. Nothing I've said in this video should come as a surprise to anyone who actively plays Destiny 2, and even casual players might see these same issues and agree with me. Plenty of other Guardians have presented ideas on how to fix the problem we see on a daily basis. These are just mine. I'm interested to know what kind of ideas you may have, so let me know down in the comments. And like many of my videos, this video took quite a while to make, so if you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button, and if you're new here, be sure to subscribe. As always, thank you for your continued support. With all that said, I'm gonna get out of here. Say my name is Matt. Let me know down in the comments your thoughts, and I'll see you guys next time.